If you look back at the history of the world economy, recessions are fairly standard events. Economies are cyclical and things can't keep growing up and up forever. At some point, economies have to downturn, but a casual drop in the stock market doesn't automatically mean a recession. Recessions are bigger than that. Recessions are technically defined as 2 consecutive quarters of the fiscal year with a decline in the gross domestic product, or GDP, of a given nation. A healthy economy continues growing over time, even with some ups and downs, but when it trends downward for 2 or more quarters, it signals something is seriously wrong in the underlying financial markets. The agency that defines the start and end dates of recessions here in the US, the National Bureau of Economic Research, or NBER, defines a recession as a significant decline in economic activity lasting more than a few months, visible in GDP, income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. Now that we've defined the term, what causes recessions? Recessions can have any number of causes, from global shutdowns to fraud to just simply bad business decisions by companies or even the government. In the 1970s, OPEC cut the supply of oil to the US without warning and caused a recession as the underpinnings of many markets simply fell away. In 2020, the current recession was caused by global shutdowns and the stopping of much economic activity like never seen before. But these are just a few examples. Recessions can be caused by excessive debt from individuals and companies, like in the 2008 collapse, which was primarily caused by excessive and bad debt in the mortgage and housing industry. Recessions can also be caused by asset bubbles, which occur when investors get a little too excited about an industry, like the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s. Money flows into otherwise bad companies just because they're in an exciting industry. This is a bubble, and it will eventually have to pop. When a bubble pops, money flows out of the market at rapid speeds as investors try to lessen their losses. Recessions can also be caused by inflation and deflation. These two principles are essentially changes in the value of a local currency. Neither are necessarily a bad thing objectively, rather than being bad is always in reference to the current economic environment. If inflation gets out of control, a currency becomes less and less valuable, causing economies to downturn. However, most countries want to maintain some stable rate of inflation over time. However, deflation, or the overvaluing of a currency, can be even worse. When this gets out of control, businesses and individuals will want to hold on to more money and not spend it, since it's getting more valuable as they hold on to it. This can cause the economy to slow down drastically because no one wants to spend their money. Now that we've defined recessions and provided some common causes, let's look at how recessions are different from depressions. The simple answer is that a depression is much worse than a recession. There are greater job losses, greater declines in GDP, and higher unemployment. Depressions also last years, not just months, and have longer recoveries. Recessions can just be minor downturns that occur in a given year, bouncing back in different ways. Depressions are greater slumps that may take a decade or more to get back from. There's only been one depression in the last century in the US, the Great Depression, and this depression lasted from 1929 to 1933 officially, but the full recovery lasted until the 1940s. Unemployment was 25% and the GDP fell by 30%. The economy basically collapsed. In the Great Recession in 2007 to 2009, unemployment was 10% on average. Clearly not as bad as the Great Depression, but still one of the worst declines in US history. That is, until 2020. In May 2020, the US unemployment hit 14.7%, the worst level since 2007 and the Depression, signaling that the 2020 recession has the possibility of turning into a depression if it lasts long enough. All that said, the average recession lasts 11 months, according to data from NBER, but that timeline can vary widely, from just 6 months to many years if the declines are lesser. Otherwise, it would be considered a depression at that point. Recessions and depressions are largely unpredictable given the complexities of modern economies. Some warning signs can pop up based off of previous learnings by economists, like changes in certain market behavior, but because recessions and depressions usually have large, unexpected causes, like the dot-com crash, the housing collapse, or the pandemic shutdowns, they can be hard to predict without seeing the future. So if you want to predict the next recession, you may need a crystal ball.